Well, hopefully I am live. I'm just going to do this live from my closet real quick. This is something that I have been, a lot of people, if you've been around the martial arts for a while, you already know this. I'm calling this the fallacy of the untrained fighter. Based on a video I saw where they were trying to tell people how to deal with untrained fighters. Now, I'm not saying that video is bad, and I may link to it below this live once it's recorded if I remember. But it is a fallacy to try to say that some fighters are untrained. Just because they don't have formal martial arts training, that does not mean that they're quote unquote untrained or unskilled. And it doesn't make them necessarily more dangerous. It makes them just as dangerous as you, and I guess in some cases more dangerous, because they have a way of going about things. The untrained fighter is basically somebody who, when most people think of untrained fighter, you think of someone that has never taken a martial arts class, who's going to come at you with unexpected, unplanned, unrefined techniques. You know, people that like to jump you and gang up on you and that type of thing. And a lot of us in the traditional martial arts, we like to think that, oh my goodness, if we ever have to deal with someone who's untrained, what are we going to do? That's the fear that's out there. And it's almost as if people think that untrained means no method, no structure, no guidance, no way of doing things. Or if there is, it hasn't been written down. So there's no way that you can learn it unless you go out and you get direct violence experience for yourself. And if you ever have to face one of these people, well, then there's just nothing that you can do because, they're just from the streets and you're totally at their mercy. Well, first of all, having dealt with and pretty much, after a while, didn't get into a lot of fights with these people. I have had some, and I've done more de-escalation with them than anything else. I can tell you one thing. A lot of untrained fighters actually do have some training. Some of them took martial arts to a low-level degree, stopped, and just practiced the basics that they knew. Some of them have martial arts training. It may not have happened in a class, but they got it from a relative, friend of the family, maybe even an older sibling, that type of thing. And they also have a lot of training and experience from getting into direct fights and, I hate to say it, breaking the law, committing assaults against people. Doing things that we tell you not to do in the martial arts because they're dangerous. Now, this is the thing. If you are prepared for the possibility of an ambush from an quote-unquote untrained fighter, I'm going to stop calling them that. We'll just call them not formally trained fighter. Not untrained. They just don't have formal martial arts training. If you actually go toe-to-toe with a lot of them, your technique, if you can keep it to hold up, is going to put you over the top. It's definitely going to put you over the top. People can poo-poo me and say, I've heard of black belts, that whatever. If you have some real-world experience in addition to your technique, or you've been managed to be trained in a way where you can get your technique to hold up under pressure, you are going to destroy those people. Yes, I said it. And I know that you will. That's why they do what they do. That's why they rely on numbers. That's why they rely on weapons. That's why they rely on surprise. That's why they try to catch you when you're not looking. That's why they try to intimidate you. That's why they distract you while they reach behind their back to grab something. You look away for a second and bam. That's why they resort to weapons. That's why they do that. So they can have an advantage over you. But if you want something that you could look at to absorb, there's more than just some dude talking in his closet, I actually have a solution for you. Now, what I'm about to say, I only know this gentleman from interacting on his Facebook and brief interactions online, okay? I doubt he would recognize me if I saw him on the street. I don't know if I would recognize him if I saw him on the street. because there are a lot of people that look like him. But I will say his name. Okay? Mark MacYoung. Mark MacYoung. Go Google Mark MacYoung. Go Google Mark Animal MacYoung. Now, is Mark MacYoung the only person who's written books about this type of stuff? No. Look him up. Look at the authors that are associated with him. Get any of their stuff. And look at it. Also look at Peyton Quinn. Peyton Quinn. He's another one. Now, are these the only two people in the known universe that know this stuff? No. They've done a good job of writing it down. And what I like to tell people about Mark MacYoung, I just use that as a catch-all. I just say the Mark MacYoung stuff for all the people that write about that type of thing, that write about real-world violence, in a structured and cohesive way that you could actually use it as a course if you had to. Well, let me say, how can I say this? Because I don't want to put people's business out there. I'll just say people that I have known over the years, okay? People I have known growing from child to adulthood. You know who you are, all right? Y'all know who y'all are if you're watching this. They gave me the Mark MacYoung stuff, right? So when I used to hear people in martial arts circles and look at it in online forums telling me, oh, you got to get this, right? I was like, I'm going to go check this out. Maybe there's some street knowledge that I didn't know. I was like, I felt like I was talking to, I was going to say his name, the main person that gave me. I was like, I told her, I was like, did you write this book? It's like, yo, you could have wrote this, man. I felt like I was talking to that person and his friends that I knew growing up. I'll put it like that. But it's the type of stuff that they told me that they hit me to. They would say, nah, Cecil, now you don't want to blah, blah, blah. Why not? Because if you blah, 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 they might do this and then they might do that. Because that's how I caught someone, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I would say like the type of stuff of, and I think I've told this story before in other videos. When I was a teenager and the adults were drinking, right? They're drinking, eating crabs. I'm not old enough to have a beer. I'd have to sneak a sip of beer, and then they smack that out of my hand. Some of those settings where they're just talking and they're sharing their war stories. That's how you can learn about how to deal with these type of untrained fighters. So go get the Mark MacYoung books. Even if you have that type of exposure and you know what I'm talking around, I still highly recommend you get those Mark MacYoung books, those Peyton Quinn books. I think another one is named, yes, Chris Wilder. Get their books, Lawrence Kane and Chris Wilder. So get books by Lawrence Kane, Chris Wilder, Mark MacYoung, Peyton Quinn. I don't know any of these gentlemen. I don't get any type of affiliation for promoting their work. And none of that. But I can tell you, the way they've written things down will be a great way that you can actually digest and study the ways of what a lot of people like to consider to be the untrained fighter. They're not untrained. They're just not formally trained in the martial arts to the degree that we are. But they know some things. They have a logic of how they like to go about things. They have methods that they use. Okay? And there are patterns to it once you study it. And if you do like I've done, you can backwards engineer it and associate it with ways of moving in your traditional forms, especially the one-step sparring exercise. Once you study that stuff and you come back to the 1Z, 2Z, Chiliet, Kunye, Junbi, down block yell type stuff, you can see how those blocks fit. You can see abstractions of why you can do those things. Then you can associate your formal training stuff to dealing with these untrained people. So, are these quote unquote untrained fighters more dangerous? They're only more dangerous if you don't open your mind to their training. I consider the things that they've picked up, like my mother used to say about hook or by crook, I consider that training. I consider that real world training. So maybe they don't sit around in pajamas in public and roll around on the mat and do forward rolls and do high kicks and punch at the air. Maybe they don't get in the ring and punch. You know? Maybe there are no refs of what they do. But they still have training. They still have a method. And it's something that you can learn. And once you learn about it, even if you can't match their viciousness for viciousness, you can at least learn how to derail the process to keep it from going that way, or you'll be ready for when they try to ambush you. You know, for example, not to turn your back on them. And you'll know why. Because, you know, I think it's the Book of Five Rings that says if you know your enemy in a battle, you know yourself. This is a great way of you to know your enemy without having to learn the hard way and incur charges and end up in the hospital because you want to go to get in street fights. So you can learn how to handle a street fighter. Thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. If you share this with people like to talk about the martial arts. Peace, and as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And if you don't know who I am Senior Master Cecil Washington, the founder of Cecil Ryu Taekwondo. Cecil Ryu Taekwondo is basically Hapkido with general choice forms. Taekwondo and Judo. And you might as well say Hapkido too, because I got ranking that now. With a little bit of introduction to Western boxing and pressure points. Peace.